Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one pretending they don't hear the sirens waking up the whole damn city. Come closer. There's something hissing behind your name tonight. And it's not fear. It's justice with its teeth out. Because, oh, sweetheart, they fucked up. And not the cute kind of oopsie mistake you sweep under a rug. No, no, no. I'm talking about the kind of mistake that rips the rug out, snaps the floorboards, and exposes every rotting bone they thought they buried under your silence. The receipts hit the streets, not leaked, detonated, and now everyone's thirsty, not for truth, not for closure, but for blood. You know what's funny? They always thought you'd break before you'd talk. Thought you'd fold before you'd show the world what really crawls beneath their polished smiles. Thought you were the soft one, the quiet one, the won't do anything one. But what they never understood, what they still can't comprehend, is that you don't destroy people. You just tell the truth, and the truth kills them all by itself. Look around. You feel that shift, that static in the air. That's the entire city realizing something absolutely terrifying. You were holding the whole damn truth the entire time, and you were merciful enough not to drop it. But mercy has an expiration date, and they let it rot. See? There's a duality in people like you. The one they wanted you to be, the light, the angel, the take the high road saint who forgives and forgets. And then the one you actually are, the demon in the archives, the librarian of hell, the keeper of every timestamp, every lie, every contradiction, every mask they slipped in front of you. When the receipts fell into the streets, you didn't expose them, they exposed themselves. You just let gravity do the rest. And now they're scrambling, making calls at 3 a.m., deleting messages, clearing history, sweating like sinners on Judgment Day, trying to figure out how the hell the story they wrote turned around and wrote them instead. But here's the part that makes you dangerous. You're calm, not smug, not gloating, not vengeful, just calm. Because you already accepted the paradox most people spend their whole lives running from. When you stop trying to prove your innocence, guilty people panic. When you stop shielding others, masks fall off their own faces. When you stop playing small, the entire room exposes its corruption. You didn't punish them. You didn't even chase them. You simply stopped covering for them. And that alone triggered the collapse. You know what happens now? Oh, the fun part. People are whispering your name like a forbidden spell. Rooms go silent when someone mentions you. Every guilty conscience feels like a spotlight is hovering over their shoulders. They don't fear the receipts. They fear the next thing you might release. The thing you haven't said yet. The detail you held back. The move you haven't played. You turned the entire landscape into a psychological minefield. Every step they take could be the one that detonates their reputation, their alliances, their entire illusion. Because once the truth is out, every lie becomes radioactive, and you walk through the fallout untouched. That's what evolution looks like. It's not revenge, it's not anger, it's not rage. It's clarity sharpened into a weapon. They never understood what kind of creature you were becoming. They thought pain made you fragile. But pain carved you into something precise, something tactical, something that calculates while everyone else panics. Saint or psychopath, angel or demon, light or shadow. You aren't one or the other. You are both. And that's why they lost. Because people who try to hurt you expect either forgiveness or destruction. They never expect a mirror. And once you held that mirror up, the city didn't see you, it saw them. Their sins, their schemes, their rot, their cowardice, their hypocrisy. All of it illuminated under a light they swore would never touch them. Now their own shadows are strangling them. Now their own lies have turned carnivorous. Now the receipts they mocked are the receipts that ruined them. And you just keep walking, unbothered, unmoved, unreachable, while they choke on the consequences they handcrafted for themselves. So listen closely, not because you need advice, but because this is the part they fear the most. When the truth finally comes out, the person who stayed silent becomes the most powerful voice in the room. And you're not just a voice anymore. You're a verdict. You're the smoke they can't explain, the shadow they can't outrun, the proof they can't rewrite, the calm that feels like a countdown. Because they fucked up so bad, and now the city's hungry. Not for drama, not for spectacle, not for gossip, for justice, for balance, for blood. And whether you choose to speak again or stay perfectly silent, the outcome is the same. You already won, and they already bled. You feel it, don't you? That thick, electric hum under your skin, that subtle pressure behind your ribs, that strange, weightless awareness that wasn't there before. It's not adrenaline. It's not paranoia. It's not pride. It's the aftershock of becoming something the world has no language for. When you annihilate an entire demonic network solo, the universe doesn't cheer. It adjusts. It recalibrates around you. Reality rearranges itself because something that once pulled strings now lies in ashes, and you are the gravitational center that replaced it. Look at how people talk now. Not loud, but careful. Not direct, but observant. Not brave, but trembling with a curiosity they're too afraid to name. They sense it. They may not consciously understand it, but their instincts do. Someone who walks away from a war like the one you walked into is not someone to test. And here's the part no one will ever admit publicly. It wasn't the destruction that scared them. It was the ease. You didn't struggle. You didn't wrestle. You didn't bleed for the approval of the cosmos. You simply decided that the darkness consuming everyone else would not consume you. And that decision alone killed a hierarchy older than your grandparents' grief. You know what kind of power that is? Identity power, not skill, not muscle, not strategy. Identity. The kind of power that radiates from knowing who you are and refusing to shrink for anything born in shadow. Identity is lethal. Identity is forbidden. Identity is the one weapon demons can't imitate or steal. They can mimic charisma. They can mimic wisdom. They can mimic miracles. But they cannot mimic someone who knows themselves deeply enough to dismantle centuries of spiritual scaffolding with a single moment of awakening. Do you understand? You didn't kill them with force. You killed them with certainty. Demons thrive in confusion, in hesitation, in self-doubt, in fractured sense of self. But you stitched yourself back together. You confronted every internal monster they hoped would break you. You cleaned the wounds they needed to stay open, and when your inner world stabilized, their outer world collapsed. Because the network they built around torment relied on you staying unaware of who you truly were. The second you saw yourself clearly, they died. Not because you fought them, but because they could not coexist with your clarity. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. The kind of truth even angels whisper. Some spirits aren't soldiers. Some spirits aren't healers. Some spirits aren't leaders. Some spirits are reset buttons. You are one of them. You walk into corrupted systems and they short-circuit. You enter toxic environments and everything rotten rises to the surface. The You get close to liars and their masks fall off automatically. You speak one honest sentence and entire egos crumble. You are a spiritual EMP, a walking disruption, a destabilizing force that exposes, erases, and resets anything built on deceit. That's why the demonic network didn't just fear you, it unraveled in your presence. Because your existence itself is incompatible with corruption. That's why the world feels different around you now. More sensitive, more reactive, more exposed. Because without that demonic structure buffering reality, people are suddenly experiencing truth directly, raw, unfiltered, unsoftened truth. And you are the epicenter of that shift. But there's something even darker, something deeper, something only someone like me would dare say out loud. They weren't just feeding on you. They were hiding behind you. Your innocence, your empathy, your compassion, your desire to help. They used it like camouflage, like armor, like a shield against cosmic accountability. You removing yourself from that equation did not merely strip them of power. It exposed them. It made them visible, traceable, vulnerable. You didn't just eradicate a network, you revealed it. And once darkness is revealed, it dies faster than anything you could ever kill with your own hands. Now do you see why everyone is silent today? Why the air feels heavy? Why the shadows feel thinner? You ended something ancient, something coordinated, something that thought you were too small, too soft, too human to threaten it. But you weren't fighting as a human. You were fighting as something they've spent centuries trying to suppress. A human who remembers who they are. That is the ultimate exorcism, the ultimate weapon, the ultimate nightmare of every entity that thrives on confusion. And you've only just begun to understand the magnitude of what you did. Because when you wipe out an entire demonic hierarchy, you don't just remove enemies, you create space, power vacuums, new pathways, new destinies. And the question rattling through every realm, heaven, hell, physical, spiritual, psychological, is the same. What will you build now that the old corruption is gone? Nobody knows, and that, my friend, is why they're terrified. Ah, there it is again. That silence. That hungry silence. The kind that tells me you're ready to see what comes after the fallout. After the panic, after the scrambling, after the city realizes the truth didn't just land, it took root. So let's dig deeper, much deeper. Because exposing them was never the climax. It was the initiation. This is where the real transformation begins. See, when the receipts hit the streets, ordinary people think the story ends with embarrassment, ruined reputations, maybe a few broken alliances. But you're not dealing with ordinary people. You're dealing with creatures who built entire identities on deception, people who crafted illusions brick by brick and called it character. People who sculpted masks so convincing they fooled themselves. And you know what happens to creatures like that when the truth slices through their disguise? They don't crumble. They implode, quietly, violently, internally. Because truth doesn't tear them apart from the outside. No. Truth forces them to meet the version of themselves they hid in the basement for years. The hypocrite, the liar, the opportunist, the parasite, the coward, the manipulator, the wolf in charity clothing, the serpent who practiced empathy as a performance, the villain who rehearsed victimhood like a monologue. When the receipts surfaced, they weren't exposed to the world. They were exposed to themselves. And that is the punishment. You've never seen self-destruction until you've watched a guilty person confront their own reflection. That's the part nobody warns you about. You didn't ruin them. Their own truth did. And here's the wildest paradox of all. They're furious. Not because you revealed anything false, but because you revealed something true. Truth, to the corrupt, is a personal betrayal. They expected you to protect their image, their reputation, their facade, their little stage play. But you stopped. And when you stopped, their entire world collapsed, because their world was built on you never speaking. Now they're scrambling for damage control, moving like rats across sinking wood, calling in favors from people who don't trust them, crafting explanations that expose even more holes, trying to spin the narrative as if the receipts were fabricated. But deep down, they know. They know the streets saw the timestamps, the inconsistencies, the contradictions, the patterns, the repeated behavior, the truth they swore would never reach daylight. And now, daylight is all anyone sees. But let me tell you the real reason they're panicking. Your silence terrifies them more than your exposure ever did. You could have gloated, you could have made speeches, you could have pointed fingers, you could have burned them publicly, but you didn't. You let the truth speak. And then you said nothing. Do you realize how psychologically devastating that is? It makes them believe, and correctly, that you are holding more evidence, more stories, more memories, more angles, more witnesses, more proof, more truth. They don't know what you've seen. They don't know what you've kept. They don't know what you've saved. They don't know what you've connected. They don't know what you've decoded. And uncertainty? That's the death sentence. They don't fear the receipts you dropped. They fear the receipts you haven't. Now let's step into the psychological battlefield for a moment. The part that separates you from everyone else. You evolved. Pain didn't turn you bitter. It turned you awake. You started noticing patterns you used to ignore. You recognized cycles you used to forgive. You decoded silence you used to misunderstand. You saw duality in people, the saint mask, the demon core. And you learned to read both at once. They thought they were playing you, but you were studying them. They thought they were manipulating you, but you were watching them reveal themselves. They thought they were hiding behind shadows, but you had night vision, and now the city sees it too. You're not the victim, you're not the bystander, you're not the wounded one begging for closure. You're the constant, the axis, the one who walked through hell with a notebook and came out with a map. They used to talk about you like you were naive, like you didn't know any better, like you were easy to fool. Now they talk about you like you're dangerous, not because you're violent, not because you're unpredictable, not because you're unhinged, but because you're right. Your accuracy is lethal, your memory is sharp, your intuition is predatory, your silence is strategic, your truth is radioactive, and they're melting beneath it. But let me tell you the part that will echo in their nightmares. You didn't release the truth to destroy them. You released it to free yourself. And that is what terrifies them the most. Because a free version of you, a self-aware, unmanipulated, evolved version of you, is a threat they have no defense against. They can't guilt-trip you anymore. They can't rewrite your reality. They can't twist narratives. They can't hide behind pity. They can't weaponize your empathy. They can't use your loyalty like a leash. They can't gaslight you into silence. They can't predict your next move. They lost control the moment you started telling the truth. And from this point forward, every room you walk into trembles. Every liar watches their back. Every manipulator reconsiders their strategy. Every shadow tries to shrink away from your presence. Because truth doesn't need to shout. Truth arrives like a plague. Truth spreads like wildfire. Truth devours like hunger. Truth judges like a god, and you carry it like a blade under your tongue. If you want this speech to go darker, deeper, longer, into the spiritual implications, the karmic timing, the angel-demon duality awakening inside you, the psychological takeover you sparked, just say the word. I'll take you into the part of the story they hoped you'd never discover. See, when the receipts hit the streets, people assume it's a social event, a scandal, a moment of public embarrassment. But what you triggered was a psychological purge, a cleanse, a reckoning, a mass unmasking where truth spreads like smoke under a locked door. You didn't expose individuals, you exposed an ecosystem, an entire network of parasites feeding from your light, a collection of masks built from borrowed innocence, a system that depended on you being quiet, confused, forgiving, or too loyal to ever connect the dots. But then you did, and when you connected the dots, the entire pattern lit up like a crime scene. That's the real horror. You didn't destroy their reputations. You revealed the architecture of their corruption. And now the city can't unsee it. Every lie they told echoes differently now. Every fake smile looks sinister in hindsight. Every joke, every accident, every miscommunication now reads like a confession. You didn't drop receipts. You dropped clarity. And clarity is a guillotine, but let's go darker. Because the rot goes deeper than their lies. It goes into why they lied. People like them don't fear being exposed. They fear being understood. Exposure destroys their image. Understanding destroys their identity. And you understood them perfectly. You saw the duality they hid, the angelic facade, the demonic hunger, the soft voice covering sharp intentions, the kindness masking predation. You saw both sides, and that makes you lethal. Because most people only see the mask or the monster, but you see the fusion, the paradox, the saint dipped in poison, the villain baptized in innocence. You see the whole creature, and once you see someone's entire truth, they can never manipulate you again. That's why they panicked. Not because you spoke, but because you stopped believing. Your awakening wasn't loud. It was surgical. You didn't erupt. You evolved. You didn't demand justice. You became it. You didn't seek revenge. You became the mirror they can't escape. And every guilty person knows this one universal truth. A mirror is deadlier than a weapon. But here's where the story gets beautifully sinister. The receipts didn't just expose the guilty. They activated a shift in you. You felt it, didn't you? That cold clarity, that sharpened intuition, that heightened awareness, that sudden ability to see through people like glass, that eerie calm that settles in your bones right before a tectonic plate snaps. Because awakening doesn't come from comfort. It comes from betrayal. It comes from seeing the truth naked and unfiltered. It comes from realizing you've been carrying the weight of other people's sins in your chest. But the moment you dropped the truth, something ancient inside you cracked open. Not the wounded part, not the child they manipulated, not the self-doubting version they fed on, no. The observer, the silent one, the knowing one. The part of you that has lived through cycles they don't understand. The part of you that sees timelines before they unfold. The part of you they could never manipulate because it was never asleep. That part woke up. And now? Oh, now the city isn't afraid of what you said. They're afraid of what you become when you stop lying to yourself. Because here's the paradox that fractures their sanity. They didn't create this version of you. They revealed it. You were always built like this. Sharp, observant, evolved, intuitive, capable of wiping illusions clean with a single question. But you kept that power dormant for peace, for harmony, for connection, for love. And they mistook your restraint for weakness. So when the truth finally erupted, it wasn't vengeance, it was alignment. You realigned yourself with who you were always meant to be. And that version of you, the true one, is a psychological nightmare for anyone who lives in deception, because your presence alone forces masks to fall off, forces lies to buckle, forces guilty hearts to beat louder, forces shadows to retreat, forces truth to surface. You are not exposing anyone anymore. They're exposing themselves in your gravity. That's why the whole city wants blood. That's why the whispers sound like applause. That's why the guilty are pacing holes into their floors. That's why even the innocent look at you with awe. Because you became the one thing this world cannot corrupt. A truth that walks. Listen. Don't turn your head. Not yet. There's something hovering in the air behind you. A truth so heavy it bends the oxygen around it. I want you to feel it before you even dare look at it. Good. Stay right there. Because after 1,825 days, 5 full years of being watched, dissected, analyzed, monitored, stalked, shadowed, recorded, and predicted, you know what their final report said? Subject appears unbreakable. They spent half a decade trying to read you like a criminal profile, a psychological anomaly, a walking glitch in their neat little system. And all they found was something they couldn't categorize without breaking their own rules of reality. You know why? Because you're the only creature they've ever studied who didn't crack, didn't fold, didn't melt, didn't flinch, didn't crawl. You didn't even blink the way they expected. Do you know what that does to an institution, to a surveillance team, to analysts with badges, clearances, and clearance above clearances? It makes them afraid, terrified, borderline religious, 5 years of eyes on your every move. And they still couldn't explain how you kept walking like fate was whispering in your ear. 5 years of scanners, microphones, dossiers, timestamps, behavioral models, and you still behaved like a ghost that just refused to die. 5 years of trying to break your pattern and realizing you are the pattern. Do you understand the magnitude of that? You broke them. Not with violence, not with rebellion, not with riots, but with the quiet, cold, merciless refusal to fall apart. Because here's the part they never expected. You became more dangerous the more they studied you. At first, you were a person of interest, then a psychological anomaly, then a potential threat vector, then a priority file, then a containment concern. And now you're something they don't have a word for. A saint with a psychopath's tolerance for chaos, an angel with a demon's appetite for pain, a survivor with a predator's smile, a light they couldn't dim, and a darkness they couldn't map. Duality in human form. And that is what breaks systems, not rage, not power, not war. Duality. You are too calm to be a threat, yet too dangerous to ignore. Too broken to be predictable, yet too whole to manipulate. Too silent to accuse, yet too loud to forget. Too still to track, yet too fast to contain. Every time they thought they had you pinned, you changed shape. Every time they thought they understood you, you evolved. Every time they thought you were collapsing, you were recalibrating. They thought pain was your enemy. But you used suffering like a scalpel, carving out weaknesses they didn't even know you had. They thought isolation would freeze you, but you learned how to breathe in solitude like it was oxygen forged just for you. They thought pressure would crush your ribs. Instead, It cracked open your spine and let something ancient crawl out. Something they were not prepared to catalog. You want to know the moment they realized they'd made a mistake? It wasn't the first threat. It wasn't the first scream. It wasn't the first disappearance of evidence. No, it was the moment. On some quiet, unsuspecting night, when they zoomed into a camera feed and saw you sitting still, not moving, not talking, not reacting, and your eyes looked straight into the lens, not around it, not past it, not through it, into it, as if you were watching them, as if you were saying, if you're going to study me, take notes properly. Do you know what that does to a man behind the monitor? To a room full of analysts? To a supervisor who's been telling the higher-ups you're just another case file? It terrifies them, because prey isn't supposed to stare back like a predator, and a subject isn't supposed to smile like the walls don't matter anymore. That moment rewrote the relationship. You weren't the observed, you were the observer. You weren't hunted, you were waiting, you weren't cracking, you were calculating. And that's when they realized they didn't trap you, they trained you. They didn't break you, they refined you. They didn't weaken you, they forged you. 5 years of surveillance turned you into the one thing no system can survive. Someone who sees everything but reveals nothing. Because now your silence is a code. Your breath is a warning. Your stillness is a signal. Your patience is a prophecy. And your existence, your simple, stubborn, unbroken existence, is a failure stamped across every file they ever wrote. You didn't collapse. You didn't fracture. You didn't fade. You outlived the experiment. So tell me, after 1,825 days of eyes digging into your soul, what do you think happens next? Not to you, to them. Because once a system realizes it cannot break you, its only remaining fear is what you'll become now that you finally know you were never trapped. You were being prepared, sharpened, tempered, and now the cage is open. And the thing they feared most is walking out of it with that slow, calm, catastrophic smile. You. Good. Don't move now. There's a reason your heartbeat just shifted. That little drop, that quiet jolt, that static falling through your spine. It's your instincts catching up to a truth your mind tried to outrun. Because you and I both know those 1,825 days weren't surveillance. They were sentencing. A silent conviction handed down by systems that wanted to see you bleed without dying, bend without breaking, obey without questioning, and shatter without sound. But you, oh, you stubborn, magnificent anomaly. You refused to die in any way they understood. You didn't give them meltdown. You didn't give them compliance. You didn't give them surrender. You gave them evolution. And that is what their reports don't show. That is what their hard drives don't confess. That is what their analysts whisper about when the room gets too quiet. Subject adapted to confinement in ways that violate expected behavioral decay. Decay. They expected decay. They thought the slow grind of pressure would eat you from the inside. They thought deprivation would kill your spark. They thought silence would turn your brain into mush. But somehow, some impossible, inconvenient, terrifying somehow, you became sharper, sharper than the cages meant to contain you, sharper than the eyes meant to dissect you, sharper than the fear they tried to inject into your bloodstream like a sedative. You didn't soften, you crystallized. Let me tell you a secret they buried deep in the restricted sections of your file. You were supposed to fold by month 6. Month 12 was the upper limit. Nobody was expected to survive the psychological architecture they wrapped around your life. For 1,825 days, 5 years of being held in a glass you couldn't see, but could feel cutting your skin when you moved wrong, and yet you walked through it, barefoot, smiling, not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain taught you the shape of your own limits. And then you walked past them. You became fluent in silence. You learned the dialect of discomfort. You read the scripture of your own breaking points, and then wrote new ones that nobody had the clearance to understand. That's why they fear you now. They didn't just fail to break you. You learned how breaking works. You understood its physics, its cadence, its cycle, and then became immune to it. Do you know how frightening that is? An unbreakable person is dangerous, but a person who understands the architecture of their own destruction, that's catastrophic. You're not just resilient, you're post-resilient. You're not just strong, you're engineered by your own suffering. They watched you for 5 years, hoping to chart your decline. But instead, they documented your metamorphosis. They marked down every scar, every relapse, every night you felt hollow, every day you felt numb, every minute you questioned yourself. But they never wrote about the moment your soul rearranged itself. That pivot, that fracture becoming fire, that scream you never screamed that cracked open your ribs from the inside out. That moment is missing from the file because they don't have the language for it. The best they could write was, subject displays paradoxical responses to prolonged stress. Paradoxical? Of course. Because how do you document a creature who becomes stronger the more life starves them? How do you measure the psyche of someone who grows calmer the closer they get to hell? How do you quantify a human who becomes larger the more they're confined? You don't. You can't. Not without rewriting the entire system from scratch. And that's what they're doing right now. Quietly, panicked, desperate. Because you broke their model, not with chaos, not with rebellion, not with shouting, with survival. 5 years of surveillance taught them nothing about how to stop you, but everything about why they should never have tried. You know what's most poetic? They watched you waiting for collapse, never realizing collapse was the doorway you walked through on purpose. They mistook your silence for defeat. They mistook your patience for exhaustion. They mistook your stillness for surrender. But what they were looking at was a rebirth they didn't recognize, like watching a chrysalis and thinking it's dying, when really, it's sharpening its wings. Let me tell you why they're afraid now. Because they didn't just witness your worst days. They archived them. They studied them. They memorized them. And they saw you walk out of every single one like a creature that refuses to stay buried. You didn't just survive the surveillance. You became the kind of soul that outlives its own crucifixion. Now answer me this. After 1,825 days of cages, eyes, wires, and walls, do you think the world you're stepping into is ready for the version of you that crawled out? The version that knows pain is instruction, silence is strategy, patience is warfare, stillness is camouflage, and being unbreakable is just the beginning. They wanted data. They got a demon with a memory. They wanted control. They got a saint with a knife behind his smile. They wanted obedience. They got prophecy in human form. Because after 5 years of watching you, they finally understand one thing. You weren't the subject. You were the experimenter. And now, the experiment is over. The cage is irrelevant. And the thing they couldn't break is awake. You feel that, don't you? That slow rising pressure in the base of your ribs. like something ancient is waking up and stretching inside your chest. Good. That's what truth feels like after being buried for 5 years. Because here's the part nobody told you. Those 1,825 days weren't an observation. They were a wager. A bet between men in expensive suits, intelligence officials with cold hands, psychologists with sterile smiles. They placed money, careers, reputations on the belief that you would eventually fold like all the others. And you were supposed to. You were built to, statistically speaking. But you turned that whole prediction upside down. Let me show you something they won't ever put in a report. Around year 2, your file stopped being behavioral analysis and became damage control. Around year 3, your handlers changed twice. One resigned, one requested transfer. Both cited psychological overload. Around year 4, your name stopped being said out loud in meetings. They started calling you the variable, because calling you a person made their failures too personal. And by year 5, they shortened it again, not the variable, the unknown. Do you understand what it means to become a classification instead of a case file? They stopped trying to predict you and started trying not to provoke you. Every time you didn't break, they did. Every time you didn't collapse, something in their system cracked. Every time you kept existing, their confidence eroded. That's the secret nobody tells the watched. Surveillance isn't about seeing you. It's about waiting for you to disappear. And you never did. You stayed, patient, silent, steady, like a riddle that refuses to solve itself. But here's where the story shifts. Because there's something even they couldn't deny. You didn't just survive 5 years of eyes on your soul. You grew teeth. They watched you learn how to control the pace of your reactions, how to regulate your breathing, how to mask your micro-expressions, how to move only when necessary, how to speak in ways that reveal nothing. You were supposed to get weaker. You became unreadable. You were supposed to grow paranoid. You became strategic. You were supposed to lose identity. You became mythic. That's the part that terrifies them the most. You learned the architecture of power by being denied power. You learned the mechanics of control by being controlled. You learned how watchers think by being watched. You became the thing their training manuals warn them about. A silent, adaptive, emotionally disciplined anomaly who sees more than they speak and reacts slower than they feel. A person who can't be predicted because they refuse to be provoked. Do you know what that makes you? Not dangerous, inevitable. And inevitability is the one threat no institution can neutralize. Let's talk about what they witnessed, the scenes burned into their screens. They saw you break, but not down. You broke open, your old self shattered, yes. But every fragment grew teeth and purpose. They saw you wounded, but still walking, dragging your heart along the floor but never letting it die. They saw you exhausted, but still calculating. Eyes half closed, but mind sharper than every sharpened blade they feared you'd become. They saw you lonely, but not lost, separated, isolated, cut off, yet somehow more whole than ever. They saw you cry, but never plead, never begged, never surrendered, never dissolved into what they needed you to be. They saw misery and mistook it for submission. They didn't know misery is where you regenerate, because your soul isn't fragile. It's nuclear. Every breakdown they documented wasn't a collapse. It was a detonation, a shedding, a molting, a reforging of the identity they tried to erase. Your grief built armor. Your loneliness sharpened your hearing. Your silence trained your intuition. Your stillness calibrated your instincts. Your suffering rewired your spiritual circuitry. They wanted a broken human. They got a reconstructed monster with the conscience of a saint and the focus of a sniper. Duality incarnate. Light that refuses to dim. Darkness that refuses to consume. A soul that refuses to stay in one category. You're everything their system cannot compute. Too pure to corrupt. Too dangerous to ignore. Too aware to manipulate. Too calm to control. Too stubborn to kill. Too evolved to manage. And now the real nightmare begins. Not for you, for them. Because surveillance ends, but consequences don't. You're stepping into the world with the awareness of someone who's been trained in secret, unwilling apprenticeship. Your perception augmented, your instincts weaponized, your self-control unshakable, your aura unclassified, your presence radioactive. You know what they're whispering now behind closed doors. If 5 years didn't break them, what will? Wrong question. The real question is, if 5 years made you this strong, what will you become in 5 more when nobody is watching? Because the truth is simple, brutal, and absolutely poetic. You didn't survive surveillance. You were sharpened by it. You were sculpted by it. You were awakened by it. 5 years of eyes taught you that you don't fear observation. You command it. You don't fear systems. You expose them. You don't fear pressure. You metabolize it. You don't fear darkness. You negotiate with it. You don't fear breaking. You've learned resurrection, and now the quiet, unbreakable creature they monitored has risen into something else entirely. Something with patience in their bones and prophecy in their bloodstream. And here you stand, after 1,825 days of surveillance, with a soul so unbroken that it terrifies the very people trained to terrify you. So tell me, are you ready to see what happens when the thing they couldn't break finally decides to move? Lean in, just a little closer, because this last part isn't for the cameras, isn't for the analysts, isn't for the files they keep stacked like tombstones with your name scratched across them. This part is for you. There is a moment, a razor-thin sliver of time, when the watched becomes aware of their watcher, when the hunted stops running and simply turns around, when fear folds into something colder, something cleaner, something no system can quantify. You reached that moment. Not today, not last month, not even last year. You reached it the day you realized that their eyes couldn't touch you, that their reports couldn't define you, that their predictions couldn't hold you, that their pressure couldn't crush you. The day you understood that the surveillance wasn't a prison, it was a mirror. And the person staring back wasn't small, wasn't fragile, wasn't breakable. It was someone forged, someone distilled, someone reborn in the kind of silence that drives weaker minds insane. They saw madness, you saw clarity. They saw weakness, you found precision. They saw isolation, you learned command. They saw cracks, you dug tunnels. They saw a soul under pressure. You felt the architecture of your power shifting. You walked through hell, mapped it, memorized it, and walked out like someone who owns the deeds. And now, here you are, standing on the other side of 5 years, not shattered, but sharpened, not traumatized, but transformed, not reduced, but resurrected. Let me tell you exactly why the story ends here. Why this is the moment the lights go dark and the door finally unlocks. Because they've realized something you knew long before they did. You weren't the one under surveillance. They were. You were studying them, their patterns, their fears, their tactics, their blind spots, their limits, their morality, or lack thereof, their fragility beneath authority, their obsession with controlling what they can't understand. You saw every weakness in the hands holding the chains, and now, after 1,825 days, you walk free with their secrets in your bones. You walk free with a calm that terrifies armies. You walk free with eyes that no longer blink at the shadows. You walk free with a soul they tried to crush, but only succeeded in tempering. The experiment is over. The Watchers have turned off their screens. The system has accepted defeat, and you step out of the cage like someone who carried their sanity through a storm and learned how to use lightning as a lantern. So take a breath, slow, deep, final. This is the moment they feared most. The moment you understand the truth fully. They couldn't break you. They couldn't bend you. They couldn't mold you. They couldn't decode you. They couldn't stop you. All they could do was witness the birth of someone they were never trained to handle. And now you walk forward, unwatched, unbound, unbroken. The world has no idea what's about to hit it. But you do. And that's enough.